Welcome to Slip Lesson 94, 6th grade. We've been dealing with fractions and decimals and percentages all year, and we're getting near the end of the year, which is always good news just because it's nice to have a break. However, we got a couple more things we want to go through this year, and one of them being looking at changing fractions and decimals into percentages. Then you might say, wait a minute, we've done this already. We know how to do this. And to some degree you do. If you have a problem just like this one right here, where it's 3/5 is equal to, what is the percentage, we understand that to take 3/5 and turn it into percentage, we want to put it over 100, and then we can figure out the equivalence, right? 5 times 20 equals 100, just like 3 times 20 is going to give us our mystery percentage of 60 out of 100, right? And we would put the percent sign there and say, okay, that's 60%. And in a fraction like that, yeah, use that method. That is probably the fastest method that you are going to get that method. However, it's not always that nice. Sometimes we have fractions like this, like 1/7. And you could sit there and you could try to figure out how many 7s fit into 100, but that's just a lot of work. And instead we're going to use a different method. And this is a method that can be applied to really all fractions, but we're going to go ahead and throw this new trick in here. And it really goes basically into the principles of cross multiplication that we have just learned about recently. So basically the trick of thumb is, if I'm going to take a fraction or a decimal, as we're going to see in just a minute, if I multiply by 100%, it's going to go ahead and give me that percentage that I'm looking for. Let's try it out. So 1 times 100, of course, is 100, and 7 times 1 is 7. So in the end, you're left with this problem. You're left with, I didn't leave myself room to do work. All right, you're left with 100% divided by 7. And so to figure out the percentage, we're going to take 100 and we're going to divide by 7. So I'm going to bring that up here, and I'm going to throw my 100 up there, and I'm going to start solving this. 7 goes into 1, 0 times 7 goes into 10. 1 times 7, boom, boom, 3, bring down the 0, 14. You like how I'm making noises to pretend like I'm talking to myself, even when I'm not really talking to myself. Add a 0, bring it down, there's a 0. Alright, decimal goes straight up. This one's a little harder than we'd all like it to be right now. And so that's going to be a 2, and 2's going to go down here, and that's going to be a 14. Now we got a 6, we're going to bring down another 0. And now we're going to 60. And, oh man, this is much longer than I was hoping it to be, but let's keep going. Alright. Keep going. 7 goes into 60, that's going to be 8 times. And that's going to give us 56. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Let's extend the page because we're out of room. Continuing, we're left with 4, 0, so it goes into 40. That's going to be 5 times, 35. That's going to give us 50. Is this ever going to end? Is this ever going to end? It's going to take a while. You can see the process that we're going into, and you could see exactly how we're going to do this. I just, for whatever reason, decided to start with a problem that likes to take forever to go on. Oh my goodness. I just plugged it into the trusty calculator and it goes like another 8 digits. So we'll just cut it off right there and say it's about 14.28%. All right. Poor example. However, you can see the method that I'm using here, and it does work. It does work. Let's go back and try an easier one. All right, so we have this problem. Didn't go quite as smoothly as I wanted to. Really what we could do is, instead of doing all of this work going down, this is something you're going to have to be able to do for some of them. All right, Once you get past 3 digits though, and you're getting into 4 or 5, that's when you can kind of come back and say, okay, this might take a little bit longer than I think, and we can go back and we could really write the answer like this: 14 and 2/7 percentage. That would be viable. But please go into a couple decimal places before. Don't just stop right when you get to that initial remainder, because there are going to be a number of fractions that really they only go 3 decimal places, and then you have the answer that you're looking for. All right. Let's try a different example. All right. We see with decimals a very similar process, right? 0.7 equals 0.70, right? We convert this into hundredths, and we understand that since this is how this decimal is read as hundredths, that really is represented like this. And so then we can say, okay, that's our percentage because it's 70 out of 100, right? 70 hundredths. And we get that method to figure out our percentage. However, oops. Sometimes it's much easier just to multiply. Multiply by 100. Think how much faster it would have been to do 0.7 times 100. It would have gotten us to here without this step and without this step. So much easier. So if we take a fraction or a decimal like 1.8, what percentage is that? 1.8 times 100. We just think about our rules of multiplication. If I'm multiplying by 100, right, I take the decimal by 100, I'm going to go 1, 2 to the right. It's as simple as that. And so in the end, you have 180%. And that makes sense because we know that 1 by itself equals 100%. And 0.8, right, if we kind of look up here, if 0.7 was 70%, then 0.8 must be 80%. So 1 and an 8, or 1.8, is going to have to give us 180%. All makes sense. It's all so clear. It's all so simple. If only. What about mixed numbers? We can look at these different ideas. We have 3 and 1/4. And there's 2 different ways you can go about doing this. The first method is you can really separate them. I have 3 over 1. Right? What is 3 over 1 as a percentage? Multiply by 100 over 1. That's going to give you 300%. Right? Over 1. Or very simply put, 300%. And then I can take the 1/4 and say, okay, 1/4. Wait a minute. I know what 1/4 is. I've had that memorized. But just in case you forgot what it was, right? That's going to be 100 divided by 4, which is going to equal 25. Oh yeah, 25%. Knew that one already. So you can do that. Or method 2, to solve for, whoops, I didn't finish. Got to add these 2 together. Oops, don't forget it's a mixed number. So in the end, it's 325%. There's the math. Method number 2. You don't want to take all those steps. Well, how about this step? Let's take 3 times 4 and add 1. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1 is 13. And what we've done is we've taken our mixed number and turned it into an improper fraction. Now as an improper fraction, I can say, okay, I'm going to multiply by 100. And now we got over 4. And now I can divide these. And so I can say, okay, how many times does 4 go into 1300? I can extend the page, and I can say, well, 4, I'm talking to myself again in my head. This is what it really sounds like in my head. You know, da-da-da-da-da. All right, don't lose focus. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. La, la, la. Okay, answer of 325%. And so you can see how that is done. 2 different methods. All right, here's a sample problem to get you on your way as you work with changing fractions and decimals to percentage by multiplying by 100%.